That night, the snow was coming down so hard you couldn't see the streetlights 2 steps away, and Kane pushed me out the front door in nothing but my old nightgown and socks. He slammed it, the lock clicked with that cold little beep, and that was it. The house I paid for, with 23 years of my life, was suddenly not mine anymore. I stood there on the porch, paint still wet on my hands, freezing, listening to my own breath turning white, thinking, this is how people die. But let me take you back a little, because you need to understand how I got to that porch. Hi, loves. My name is Leora. If you're new here, welcome to this little corner where we talk about real betrayal, real pain, and the moment a woman decides she's done swallowing it. If you've ever been thrown away by someone you washed clothes for, cooked for, prayed for, then stay with me. These stories are for us. Hit the bell. Leave me a little heart in the comments so I know you're here with me tonight. Before everything broke, I thought I had a good life. Quiet, but good. I'm a forensic audit specialist. Yes, the boring lady who checks numbers for a living. I always believed that if you work honestly and love your husband properly, God keeps the pieces together. That's what my mother taught me, and her mother before her. So I tried. Lord, I tried. Kane, my husband, worked as project director at Arkwright Corporation. Big company, big glass building downtown. He always came home talking about meetings, budgets, how tired he was. I'd warm his dinner, rub his shoulders, tell him I was proud. He had a nice smile when he wanted, smooth voice, always knew what to say to make people like him. I thought that smile still belonged to me. We had a comfortable house on the good side of Denver. Mortgage almost paid off. I was excited because I finally had time to fix up my little home office. I wanted pale blue walls, a proper desk, start taking private clients again. That afternoon, I was up on a small ladder, roller in my hand, humming an old church song, feeling happy for the first time in months. Kane had been different for a while, coming home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine, phone always face down, snapping at me over nothing. I told myself men get stressed, marriages have seasons, keep peace in the home, Leora. Be patient, respect your husband even when it hurts. That's what good wives do, right? But that day, while I was moving his work papers off the floor so I wouldn't drip paint on them, a folded receipt fell out of his folder. Bank transfer. $280,000 to a company I never heard of. No project name, no explanation, just a string of numbers and consulting fees. My stomach dropped. I wasn't trying to spy, I promise. I was just holding that paper, and my heart started racing like I already knew something evil was looking back at me. When Kane walked in that evening, I was still holding it. I asked, quietly, respectfully, like a wife should. Honey, can you explain this transfer? The company name doesn't ring a bell. His face changed in half a second. Eyes went dark. He snatched the paper, ripped it into little pieces right in front of me. You don't touch my things, he hissed. You think you're so smart with your little numbers? Stay in your lane. I tried to stay calm. Kane, I'm not accusing. I just want to understand. That's when he lost it completely. He kicked the paint bucket so hard, white paint splashed across the walls I had just spent hours making perfect. Called me nosy, controlling, useless. Said I was lucky he even kept a roof over my head. The words got uglier and uglier. I stood there with paint on my feet, trying not to cry, still saying, let's talk, please. Then he grabbed my arm so hard it burned, dragged me down the hallway, took my phone out of my hand, and threw it straight into the fireplace. I watched the screen crack and turn black. Before I could even scream, the front door was open, wind and snow rushing in, and he shoved me out onto the porch like I was trash. I fell hard on the concrete steps. By the time I looked up, the door was shut. I heard the security system beep, my own fingerprint, the one I helped install, now locking me out forever. Snow filled my hair, my eyelashes, soaked through my nightgown in seconds. I had no coat, no keys, no money, no phone, just me and the storm. I beat on the door with bare hands until my knuckles bled, begging him to let me in. Nothing, only the wind answered. I slid down onto the porch floor, hugging my knees, shaking so hard my teeth made noise. The street was empty, everyone inside their warm houses. I remember thinking, this is it. I'm going to freeze right here, and tomorrow they'll find me like a forgotten dog. If those neighborhood cameras hadn't been working that night, sisters, maybe this would have been where my story ended. But someone was watching. It started small. I was paying our household bills one evening, something I always did, because Kane said numbers gave him headaches. While I was moving money between accounts, I noticed regular transfers going out to a company called Nivora Consulting. Every month, same amount, no invoice attached, no description. I'd never heard of them. I asked Kane that night, gentle as always, "Honey, who is Nivora? It's taking quite a bit every month." He didn't even look up from his phone. "Don't worry about it." "But it's our money," I said. That's when his head snapped up. "Our money? You mean the money I earn while you sit at home playing with spreadsheets?" He laughed. "Cold? Stop controlling everything. Leora, some things are men's business." I swallowed it, like I swallowed everything else. After that, he changed every password. Banking, credit cards, even the stupid streaming services. If I asked to buy groceries online, he had to type it himself. His laptop never left his side. His phone lived in his hand. Screen always facing down. He started coming home after midnight, shirt smelling of sweet perfume and cigarette smoke. I'd lie awake, waiting, and when he finally slid into bed, he'd turn his back without a word. Some nights I heard the soft click of him deleting messages the second they came in. Dinner became two people chewing in silence. I'd try, "How was your day?" and he'd answer with one syllable or not at all. I told myself I was overreacting. Good wives trust their husbands. Good wives pray harder instead of asking harder. Then came the day I decided to paint the office. I was happy again, humming, roller in hand. His work bag was on the floor. Papers had spilled out. That's when the bank transfer receipt fell into the paint tray. $280,000 to the same Nivora Consulting. This time, the date was only 3 days old. My hands started shaking. I couldn't pretend anymore. When Kane walked in that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the receipt in front of me. I didn't raise my voice. "Kane, please, just tell me what this is." He looked at the paper, looked at me, and his eyes went black like someone flipped a switch inside him. He snatched it out of my hand so fast the edge cut my finger. Then he tore it into tiny pieces, right in my face, letting the scraps rain down on the table like confetti at a funeral. The paint bucket was next. One vicious kick and it flew, white paint exploding everywhere. Across the walls I'd spent all day making perfect, across the carpet, across my bare feet and legs. It looked like blood would have been cleaner. "You never know when to shut up, do you?" he screamed, voice shaking with rage. 23 years and you still haven't learned your place. Nosy, nagging, worthless old woman. Look at you, standing there in that ratty nightgown like some dried-up housewife who thinks she's Sherlock Holmes because she can add two numbers together. He stepped closer, spit flying. "I carry this family. I pay for everything, while you sit here playing with your little paint and your little spreadsheets. You think you're smart. You're nothing. A parasite. Without me, you'd be in the street begging. And guess what? That's exactly where you belong." Every word hit harder than the one before. Useless. Barren busybody. I'm sick of your voice, sick of your face, sick of pretending you matter. You want to dig through my things? Fine. Dig through the snow tonight, because you're done here. That was the moment the man I married disappeared completely, and the monster I'd been feeding for years finally showed his real teeth. I stood there crying, paint dripping from my fingers like tears I couldn't stop. "Kane, please, let's just talk," I begged, voice shaking. "Please calm down." That word calm was the wrong one. His hand shot out, snatched the phone from my fingers so hard the case scraped my skin. "Talk? You want to talk now?" he snarled and hurled it straight into the fireplace. I heard the glass crack, saw the flames swallow the only thing that could have called for help. Before I could even scream, his fingers clamped around my upper arm like iron. The pain made me gasp. "You're done talking. You hear me?" he roared, dragging me down the hallway. My feet slipped in the wet paint. I stumbled, but he didn't slow down. He yanked me so hard my shoulder burned. 23 years I wasted on you," he kept shouting, spit hitting my face. 23 years of your whining, your nagging, your ugly jealous face. You think you deserve anything? You think this house is yours? I'm sick of looking at you. I tried to grab the wall, tried to stop him. "Kane, you're hurting me. Please, shut your mouth." He jerked me harder, almost lifting me off the floor. "You're nothing but a leech, a dried-up, childless, miserable leech who forgot her place a long time ago." He flung the front door open. The blizzard hit us both, but he didn't feel it. He dragged me across the threshold like I weighed nothing. Snow stung my eyes, soaked the thin nightgown instantly. "Please, Kane, I'm begging you." "Beg in the snow. Then," he screamed, and shoved me with both hands. I flew forward, knees slamming into the icy porch steps. Pain shot through my legs. I looked up through frozen tears and saw his face twisted with pure hate, teeth bared like an animal. This is where worthless women belong, outside like the trash they are. He stepped back inside, slammed the door so hard the walls shook, and I heard the cold little beep of the security system. He pressed my own saved fingerprint against the panel, the one I'd proudly added thinking it would make us safer, and locked me out forever. The wind swallowed my screams. The wind hit me like knives. Snow filled my mouth when I tried to scream. I beat on the door until my fists went numb. Nothing. Just that final click of the lock telling me the house wasn't mine anymore. I slid down onto the icy porch, arms wrapped around myself, shaking so hard I couldn't feel my feet. No phone, no keys, no coat, nothing but darkness and the blizzard. I always thought the worst part of marriage was silence. The way he could sit across the table and look right through me, like I was already a ghost. I thought that was pain, until I was thrown onto the street like garbage. The cold hit different when you know nobody's coming back for you. It wasn't just freezing. It was final. My nightgown glued itself to my skin with wet paint and ice. My fingers went past numb to burning. Every breath felt like swallowing glass. I tried to stand, and my legs buckled. I crawled back to the door and beat on it with fists that didn't feel like mine anymore. "Kane, please, I'm your wife." Only the wind answered, whipping snow into my mouth when I opened it to beg. I pictured tomorrow, neighbors finding a frozen woman on the porch, still in her nightclothes, paint in her hair, like some crazy person. They'd shake their heads, say, "Poor thing, marriage problems," and go back to their warm coffee. My mother's voice in my head, "A good wife endures." Endure what, Mama? Dying on the welcome mat because I asked about a receipt? I curled up small against the door, arms around my knees, trying to keep the last bit of warmth in my chest. I started praying the short prayers you say when you're too cold for long ones. Lord, just don't let me die here. Not like this. Not because of him. Tears came, but they froze halfway down my cheeks. Little salt icicles. My teeth chattered so hard, I tasted blood where I bit my tongue. I remember thinking, this is how animals feel when they're left behind. This is how you disappear. I don't know how long I sat there. Minutes, maybe an hour. Time stops meaning anything when your heart slows down to save warmth. The world went white and quiet, like God himself turned away. Then, far down the road, 2 headlights cut through the white curtain of snow, coming slow, getting closer. I couldn't even lift my head all the way. My mind was sluggish, half gone. Part of me thought, maybe it's Kane, come back to make sure I'm really gone. Maybe he decided one shove wasn't enough. Those headlights, they stopped right in front of me. A big black SUV, tires crunching slow through the snow. I couldn't even stand up anymore. I just sat there on the porch steps, shaking, paint frozen stiff on my nightgown, waiting to see if this was help or the end. 2 men in dark coats got out fast, boots heavy, bodyguards. One of them wrapped a thick blanket around me without asking questions. The other half carried me to the car. I was too cold to fight or speak. The door shut, heat blasted, and the car rolled away from the house that wasn't mine anymore. We drove maybe 2 minutes, past the gates I'd never noticed before, and stopped in front of a mansion lit soft against the storm. The door opened before we even reached it. A woman stood there in a simple black dress, gray hair pulled back tight, eyes like winter steel. Mrs. Celine Arkwright. I recognized the face from the news, but she looked older, sharper, like someone who'd buried a husband and never cried in public once. They sat me in a warm room that smelled of wood and cinnamon. Someone took off my wet socks, wrapped my feet in towels. Celine handed me thick wool clothes and a mug of tea so hot it burned my lips. I held it with both hands just to feel something that wasn't ice. "What happened to you?" she asked, voice low, calm, but every word felt like it weighed a ton. I started crying again and told her everything. Kane screaming, the paint, the phone in the fire, the way he dragged me out and locked the door with my own fingerprint. When I said his name, Celine went perfectly still. "Kane works for me," she said, slow. "Project director, Arkwright Corporation." I almost dropped the mug. All these years he talked about the company, big meetings, long hours. I thought it was some mid-size place downtown, not the Arkwright family, not the name on half the buildings in Denver. Before I could breathe, the door opened again, and a younger woman walked in. Tall, dark hair, suit sharp enough to cut glass. Astra Arkwright, Celine's daughter, the COO everyone said was born with ice water in her veins. She stopped when she saw me, eyes flicking over the paint stains, the bruises starting on my arm. "Mother, who?" Then she heard the name Kane, and her mouth tightened. "Of course, him again." She looked at me like she was already tired. "We've had complaints about that man for 2 years. Lazy work, missing reports, people afraid to speak up, but never proof. Never enough to move." Celine set her cup down with a soft click. "A man who throws his wife into the snow in her nightgown has no place in my company," she said. "I built Arkwright on loyalty and decency. He's finished. Tomorrow morning, I call legal. Security escorts him out. Police if needed. Done. I should have felt relief. Instead, my stomach twisted. 23 years of marriage, and tomorrow he loses everything because of one night. I opened my mouth, some old habit of protecting him, of keeping peace, but nothing came out. Astra's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned, then tapped the screen. Her face changed, eyes widened, jaw set hard. She turned the phone so Celine could see. An email. From Kane? Sent 20 minutes ago, the exact time I was still on the porch freezing. Attached was a video file. Celine read the subject line out loud, voice suddenly thin. Fire me, and this goes to every news outlet in the country by sunrise. Astra's hand shook just a little. Whatever was in that video had just stopped everything cold. Astra put the phone on the low table between us and pressed play. The little speaker crackled to life. It was Astra, 6 months earlier, sitting in a private room with 4 men I didn't know. Dim light, wine glasses, quiet laughter. The camera must have been hidden high up, maybe in the smoke detector, because you could see the whole table. At first it sounded normal. Talk about zoning changes, market forecasts, nothing that would raise an eyebrow. Then the audio skipped. Just a tiny jump you'd miss if you weren't listening for it. Suddenly Astra's voice sounded different, colder, greedy. I can get you the final bid numbers 2 weeks early, the recording said, for the right arrangement. One of the men slid a thick envelope across the table. The fake Astra smiled, tucked it into her purse, and whispered, "Consider it done. No one ever has to know." The clip ended. 27 seconds total. 27 seconds that could destroy a woman's life. Astra's hand was steady, but her voice shook. That meeting was completely legal. Witnesses, disclosures, lawyers in the next room. Kane must have planted something. He cut and pasted my words like paper dolls, took sentences from 3 different conversations and stitched them together. To anyone who doesn't know me, it looks like I sold company secrets for cash. Celine read the email attached to the file, word for word, so I could hear the poison in it. Mrs. Arkwright, effective immediately. Any attempt to terminate my employment, suspend me, or initiate formal investigation will trigger an automated release of the attached video to every major news outlet, the SEC, and selected board members at 8 a.m. the following business day. I have enjoyed my time at Arkwright and hope we can continue our mutually beneficial relationship. Respectfully, Kane. No pleading, no shame, just a polite little bomb with a timer already ticking. Astra looked at her mother, eyes glassy. That's why I backed off every time the complaints came in. Missing deadlines, budget overruns, staff afraid to put things in writing. I thought if I just watched him closely, kept him contained, I could find real proof later. One wrong move and that video goes live. My reputation, gone. The stock, gone. Everything your father and you built for 100 years, gone. Celine sat perfectly still for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, but it filled the whole room. He's not simply incompetent, she said. He's a parasite who learned exactly where to bite so the host doesn't dare swat him. We will not swat. We will pull him out slowly, root and all, until the light hits every dark thing he's done. Then she turned to me, still wrapped in her borrowed sweater, paint under my fingernails, bruises blooming purple on my arm. "Leora," she said, "you spent 23 years living with that man. You know how he thinks. And you understand numbers the way most people understand breathing. Stay here, not as a guest, as my independent analyst, No official title yet. No internal politics. No one watching over your shoulder except me. You go into the books, into every file, every invoice, every email. Find me the rope he's been weaving, we'll hang him with it. My whole life I was taught a wife doesn't destroy her husband. Turn the other cheek. Pray for those who hurt you. Vengeance belongs to the Lord, but I could still taste snow in my mouth. I could still feel his fingers digging into my arm while he screamed that I was worthless. I looked at Selene's steady eyes, then at Astra's clenched hands, and something inside me finally broke loose. Not into hate, but into clarity. If I do this, I said, voice raw, it's not revenge, it's justice. He threw me away like trash. He doesn't get to keep hurting people just because he found one dirty picture to hide behind. Selene gave the smallest nod, like she'd known my answer before I did. 3 days after they changed the locks, a message appeared from an unknown number. No text, just a video file. I was sitting in the little guest room at Selene's mansion, still wearing borrowed clothes, when I pressed play. The screen filled with the bedroom I'd picked every pillow for. Kane and Vesper, tangled in the sheets that still smelled like my detergent, laughing between kisses, her red hair spilling across the pillow I'd bought on our 15th anniversary. The camera angle was from the dresser, our dresser. Probably his phone propped up to record his victory. At the end, she looked straight into the lens, smiled slow and cruel, and mouthed, "We won." Then the clip ended, with Kane pulling her closer, whispering something that made her laugh like I never could. I sat there long after the screen went black, phone burning in my hand, feeling something worse than hate, pity. Pity for the man who thought replacing me with a younger body in the same bed meant he'd won anything at all. Pity that he needed to send proof because, deep down, he already knew he was the one who lost everything real. Astra set me up in a quiet study on the second floor. Big oak desk, fast laptop, direct secure line into the company servers. I slept a few hours, showered, put on clothes that actually fit. Then, first thing the next morning, I sat down and typed Kane's employee ID into the search bar. His official salary popped up. $187,000 a year plus bonus. Decent money. Comfortable. Then I opened the project expense ledgers he managed. In 18 months, more than $3 million had moved through accounts he touched. Money that had no business being there. Transfers, consulting fees, site assessment costs that led to companies I'd never heard of. Millions that should never have left the building. I sat back in the chair, heart hammering against my ribs. That was only the first page. A week after I started at the mansion, Selene put me on the official payroll as Special Forensic Advisor. Kane found out the same day. I still remember the look on his face when he walked into the executive corridor and saw me standing there with a new badge around my neck. His step faltered, eyes wide for half a second before the mask slid back on. He recovered fast, smiled that old charming smile, said, "Well, look who's joining the team," like we were still married and everything was fine. But from that morning on, he made my life hell in tiny, quiet ways. Meetings suddenly moved without telling me. Files I needed got misplaced. People I was supposed to interview canceled last minute with excuses that all traced back to him. He'd pass my desk, drop a casual, "Need any help, sweetheart?" loud enough for others to hear, then send emails questioning my numbers behind my back. On the surface, he was the perfect colleague. Underneath, he was still trying to push me out the door. Only this time, the door was made of glass and the whole company was watching. But that doesn't stop me. I started exactly where any forensic auditor starts, the riverfront reconstruction projects Kane managed. On paper, They looked normal: new parks, walkways, flood barriers. I sat there with 2 windows open side by side, the original winning bid for the riverfront flood wall project and the final payment approval Kane had signed. The real bid from the construction company was $28.4 million. Kane's final approved amount, $42.7 million. An extra $14.3 million just appeared. I did the same for the pedestrian bridge. Real cost, $11.9 million. Kane paid $18.2 million. For the park landscaping, $6.1 million became $9.8 million. Every single riverfront project he touched was swollen like a poisoned limb, 30 to 50% over budget, and every single extra dollar had his signature on it. I clicked into the largest single overpayment, $4.8 million labeled Phase 2 Environmental Impact and Soil Analysis. The receiving company, River Mist Solutions, LLC. Registered in a strip mall mailbox center outside Cheyenne, Wyoming, the kind of place that rents you a box for $30 a month. Sole member, listed on the state filing, Marla J. Jenkins. Marla Jenkins, the girl with the big laugh and teased hair who Kane brought to our engagement party 25 years ago as an old friend. The one he swore he hadn't spoken to since college. I still remember her red dress and the way she hugged him a second too long. I looked her up on the salon's website in Pueblo. Same Marla, same smile, now with highlights and a bio that said she's been cutting hair at the same shop for 19 years. She hadn't been out of Colorado in a decade, let alone performed million-dollar environmental studies. Yet Kane paid River Mist Solutions 5 separate times, $4.8 million, $5.1 million, $4.9 million, $5.3 million, $4.7 million. $24.8 million total to a hairdresser's ghost company that existed only on a mailbox sticker. That was the moment the room went quiet, and I understood. This wasn't sloppy bookkeeping. This was a machine. A deliberate, cold-blooded machine built by the man who used to kiss me goodnight. That was shell company number 1. I couldn't stop once I saw the pattern. Every night I sat there until the screen blurred, chasing one invoice after another, and every single trail ended the same way. Another fake company. Another woman from Kane's past who had no business touching millions of dollars. Horizon Edge Advisors, registered to Kelly Sandoval, the girl he took to senior prom. She's a part-time yoga teacher in Fort Collins now. Received $6.2 million for community engagement surveys that never happened. Bluecrest Strategies, owned by Dana Whitaker, his college girlfriend who dumped him junior year. She sells insurance in Grand Junction. Got $5.9 million for stakeholder liaison services. No meetings, no reports, nothing. Apex View Consulting. Listed to Tricia Holt, the secretary everyone whispered about 8 years ago when they worked late. On presentations. She's a stay-at-home mom in Aurora with 3 kids. Pulled in 7. $1 million for risk assessment deliverables that don't exist anywhere except Kane's fake folders. Silver Current Partners belonged to Renee Park, the bartender he dated for 6 months before we got engaged. Now married, lives in Albuquerque, hasn't set foot in Denver in 15 years, took $4.4 million for cultural heritage impact reports. North Star Compliance, registered to Ashley Monroe, his high school sweetheart who sent him a Christmas card every year until 3 years ago. She's a nurse in Colorado Springs, received $5.6 million for regulatory alignment consulting, Crestline Dynamics, Willowbridge Solutions, Peak Harmony Group, Summit Path, LLC, each one the same story. Old flame, old fling, old just a friend, suddenly a highly paid expert on riverfront projects they'd never heard of. 9 women, 9 mailboxes in 3 different states, 9 companies that filed taxes showing exactly 0 employees and 0 office rent. 9 women who, when I quietly checked, had no idea their names were being used. $40 million funneled through ghosts from Kane's past while I was at home scrubbing floors and telling myself a good wife trusts her husband. The cruelty of it hit harder than any slap. He didn't just steal from the company. He dragged every woman who ever cared about him into his crime, without even asking, just to keep his hands clean. And he did it smiling, coming home to kiss me goodnight, telling me I worried too much. That's when I stopped feeling married to a man and started feeling married to a lie wearing my husband's face. I built a chart on the wall with yarn and printed pages, the way we did before fancy software. Red lines showed money leaving Arkwright, bouncing through 2 or 3 banks, landing in those 9 shells. From there, it circled back, clean now as dividends or management fees, to accounts Kane controlled. $40 million, give or take. 40 million stolen one quiet transfer at a time while I was at home ironing his shirts and praying he'd come home early for once. Every night I sat there until the house was asleep, tracing the lies of the man I thought I knew. The deeper I dug, the more I realized I never really knew him at all. The gentle husband who kissed my forehead on Sunday mornings and the thief who built an empire of fake companies were the same person. I had slept beside a stranger for 23 years. When the chart was finished, red arrows everywhere, 40 million in the middle. I carried it downstairs. Celine and Astra were waiting in the library, fire low. I spread it across the table like a crime scene photo. Celine studied it without blinking. "He's not just stealing," she said finally. "He's bleeding the company slowly enough that no one notices until it's too late. Credibility, trust, future contracts, all dying while he smiles in meetings." Astra's fists were white on the table's edge. "I let him stay," she whispered. "Because of one fake video, I let this happen. I should have known a man who blackmails won't stop at blackmail." She looked at me, eyes fierce. "Finish it, Leora. Whatever it takes." I promised I would. I went back upstairs, opened another statement, ready to chase the next thread. That's when I saw it, buried in the personal reimbursements Kane approved for himself, $18,400 every single month to an account labeled Skyline Residences, Unit 3401. Luxury building downtown, penthouse level. Kane never once mentioned renting a second place. Never once. I pulled up the building directory. Unit 3401 was registered to a woman I'd never heard of. Someone was living in a palace my husband paid for with stolen money. I started with the corporate Amex tied to that $18,400 monthly residential allowance. One click, and the statement opened like a diary of someone else's perfect life. $9,800 at Neiman Marcus, 3 dresses, one of them a red silk gown with a slit to the thigh. $4,200 at La Mer Counter, face creams I couldn't pronounce. $3,200 for a single pair of crystal-embellished Louboutins the color of champagne. $1,850 monthly at a private spa downtown. Caviar facials, oxygen infusions, something called a 24-karat gold body wrap. $900 every Friday at the same French bakery. Pastries flown in from Paris, apparently. $600 weekly at the salon for full color, extensions, and silk blowout. Random nights. $1,100, $1,400, $2,300 at high-end restaurants Kane and I could never afford together. And the worst, $12,000 in one afternoon at a jewelry store. A diamond tennis bracelet that showed up on her wrist in the next lobby photo. Every single charge approved under Kane's login, coded as client entertainment or project site expenses. Every single receipt had her signature. Vesper Laurent, written in a looping, confident hand I'd never seen before. Then I pulled the building's lobby cameras. The feed was crystal clear. Same woman, every day, tall, red hair like fire under the chandeliers, early 30s, cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass. She always wore oversized sunglasses, even at midnight, big enough to hide half her face, designer yoga clothes to walk the dog, floor-length furs to take out the trash. She floated through that marble lobby like she owned the city. I cross-checked the lease. Unit 3401, top floor corner penthouse, 2 terraces, 360-degree views. Registered tenant, Vesper Laurent. Monthly rent, $18,400 exactly, paid on the 3rd of every month from the same corporate account. I watched one clip on loop. Kane stepping out of the private elevator at 147 A.M. Arms full of shopping bags with the same store logos I'd just seen on the statements. Vesper waiting at the door in a silk robe, barefoot, laughing as he kissed her hello like it was the most natural thing in the world. While I was home scrubbing burnt pans and praying he'd come back early for once, he was buying her diamonds and gold facials with money he stole from widows' pensions and city contracts. That was the moment the word mistress stopped sounding old-fashioned and started feeling like a knife twisting slow. Vesper Laurent. I typed the name, and the first result was a YouTube video from 10 years ago. A smoky club, one spotlight, her in a silver dress singing "The Nearness of You" like the song was written for her throat. 23 million views. Then, nothing. No second single, no tour, just silence. Kane used to play that exact recording in the car 2 years ago. Volume low, windows up, eyes far away. He'd sigh and say, "Listen to her phrasing. Some people just have real talent. Leora, real talent." I thought he was talking about music. I even asked if we could go see her if she ever performed in Denver. He laughed, kissed my forehead, and said, "She's too special for places like this." Now I understood why he never looked for tickets, because while I was home ironing his shirts and packing his lunches, he was keeping her like a secret queen. Every first of the month, $18,400 rent, paid before I even woke up. Every Tuesday morning, $420 charged at the organic grocer on the corner. Always the same order, truffles, French champagne. Those tiny strawberries that cost more per pound than steak. Every Thursday, $100 at the florist. White orchids and roses, delivered to the penthouse with a card I never got to read. Every weekend, the black Amex she flashed at the valet. Dinner, theater, private hotel suites when they wanted a change of view. The doorman's log was the worst. 37 overnights in the last year alone. 37 times my husband parked in the resident garage, took the private elevator to the 34th floor, and didn't come home until the sun was up. 37 mornings I made coffee for one and told myself he was working late on a deadline. I found a charge for a cashmere blanket, $2,800, billed as office supplies. Another for a diamond pendant shaped like a music note, $14,000, coded as team appreciation gift. I found a vet bill for a white Persian cat named Luna. Kane hates cats, always said they shed too much. I found birthday flowers on February 14th, my birthday, delivered to her. Not me. He remembered her favorite song, her favorite wine, the exact shade of red lipstick she wore in that old video. He remembered everything about her and forgot I existed unless he needed clean socks. That wasn't an affair. That was a whole second life, paid for with money he stole while I prayed for the husband who no longer came home. I printed the photos, Vesper in a silk robe on the balcony, Kane's arm around her waist, both of them laughing at the city lights while I was home folding his laundry. I took the whole file downstairs. Celine and Astra were already waiting. He's not just stealing, I said, voice flat. He's keeping a mistress in a penthouse with company funds, full-time, openly, like having a second wife he actually likes. Celine didn't blink. A man who can't control his own appetites can't be trusted with a corporation's future, she said. Greed like this never stops at money. Astra stared at the photos longer than I expected. He used our money to build himself a fantasy life while threatening to destroy mine, she whispered. We end this carefully, or he burns everything down on his way out. I went back to work that night, digging deeper into the project reports Kane submitted. Something felt off. The numbers never quite matched reality, costs slightly higher, timelines stretched, risks downplayed. Then I noticed the same strange pattern in every financial forecast. Tiny adjustments, always in the same direction, always favoring one outside bidder no one else seemed to want. I traced the source files, hidden folders, encrypted logs. One name kept appearing in the metadata. Gridshade. Gridshade was an AI platform Kane had built himself, quietly, on company servers, after hours. It took real data and nudged it, just enough to make Arkwright projects look weaker and more expensive than they were, while making one particular competitor's bids look perfect. Every distorted report carried Gridshade's fingerprint. Every losing internal proposal conveniently opened the door for the same outside partner to swoop in cheaper and faster. I didn't say the rival company's name out loud yet, Novagrid, but the pieces were clicking. Kane wasn't just stealing. He was sabotaging Arkwright from the inside so his secret company could take the contracts he deliberately made us lose. I sat there until dawn, staring at the screen, feeling the last bit of the man I married die inside me. This wasn't a mistake or a weak moment. This was planned, cold, year after year, while he kissed me goodnight. Celine and Astra wanted him gone yesterday, but one wrong step and that fake video still destroys Astra. We had to be perfect. That afternoon, a new file landed in my secure drive, system access logs flagged by security. Someone had been logging in after hours, poking around restricted folders, using credentials that belonged to an IT contractor who had left the company 8 months ago. The username was still active. Someone was inside the system right now. That same evening, Selene called us into the small library at the back of the mansion. She shut the heavy oak doors herself, turned the key, and told the housekeeper we weren't to be disturbed for anything. The fire was low, just a soft glow on the walls. She poured 3 cups of tea, plain chamomile, nothing fancy, and set one in front of each of us, like this was just another quiet night. Only my hands were shaking so hard, the cup rattled in the saucer. I opened the laptop and turned it so they could both see the screen. Someone's been logging in after midnight, I said, voice still rough. Same account every night for the past 10 days. Marcus Hale, the IT contractor we let go 8 months ago. He's opening every folder with my name on it, reading the files, but not downloading yet. Just watching. Celine leaned in, eyes sharp, studying the timestamps like she could see straight through them. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then, quiet and certain, "It's Kane. He always keeps a spare key. That's how he sleeps at night." Astra's fingers tightened around her cup. "If we disable the account now, he knows we're onto him. He panics, hits send on that fake video about me, and vanishes with whatever cash he's already moved offshore. We lose everything." Celine never raised her voice. She just looked at me, then at Astra, and said the words that changed the game. "Then we don't disable it. We leave the door open, and we make him think he's the one closing it." That was the moment the 3 of us stopped being victims and started building the trap ourselves. We sat there until the fire burned low and made the plan, piece by piece, whispering like women have done for centuries when the men weren't listening. First layer, I keep working exactly the same hours, same searches, same printing. I finish the last details on grid shade, the 9 shell companies, Vesper, all of it. Kane has to see me busy so he believes everything is normal. Second layer, Astra starts a loud, ugly fight with me right outside his office tomorrow morning. She'll shout that I've found everything, that legal already has copies, that he's finished next week. She'll even pretend to fire me on the spot. Kane loves thinking people are turning on each other. He'll hear every word. Third layer, every single real file, every photo, every bank statement is already copied to a private blockchain node inside the company system. Celine's security team set it up 2 days ago. Once it's on the chain, no one can delete it. Not Kane, not a hacker, not the end of the world. It's there forever. Celine leaned back in her chair, eyes shining in the firelight. The 100th anniversary gala is 9 days away, she said. Glass tower, 500 guests, every board member, every investor, live stream to shareholders. Kane has to attend, mandatory for directors. That room will be our courtroom. We let him think he destroyed the evidence first. Then we show the world who he really is, with proof he can't touch. My heart started racing so hard I could barely breathe. 9 days until I walk into the same room as the man who threw me into the snow. 9 days until I look him in the eye, while the truth falls on him, like bricks. I was terrified and relieved at the same time. I spent the whole week barely sleeping, 3, 4 hours a night, then back to the desk. I finished the grid shade report, printed hard copies, triple-checked the blockchain uploads. Every time I passed Kane in the hallway, he gave me that same smooth smile and asked, "Settling in, okay, Leora?" I smiled back, said, "Yes, thank you," and felt my stomach turn inside out. The morning of the fake fight came faster than I wanted. I barely slept. My stomach was in knots, but I kept telling myself, this is the day he finally believes he's won. Astra and I walked into the executive corridor at exactly 8:47, right when Kane always stepped out for his second coffee. The hallway was quiet, except for our heels on the marble. She stopped dead center, turned to me like she was furious, and let her voice ring out loud enough for every office door to hear. "I told you to summarize the numbers, not dig up 20 years of dirt," she shouted, face red the way we practiced. "You think you're some hero? You've gone way too far. Leora? Legal already has everything now. The 9 shell companies, the mistress in the penthouse, the AI sabotage, all of it. Next week he's finished, and if this leaks early, half the board goes down with him." I made my voice small and shaky, the way a scared employee would sound. "I only did what you asked me to do." She cut me off sharp, pointing straight at my chest. "Pack your things. You're done here. I never want to see you in this building again." She spun on her heel and stormed off, the click of her shoes echoing like gunshots. I stood there, pretending to wipe tears, counting slow in my head. 1, 2, 3. Then I heard them. Those familiar footsteps, slow and quiet, coming from the direction of Kane's office. He had heard every single word. Her heels clicked away like gunshots. I stood there pretending to wipe tears, counting in my head. 10 seconds. 20. Then I heard them. Those familiar footsteps, slow and quiet, coming from the direction of Kane's office. He had heard every word. The trap was live, and he just stepped right into it. That same afternoon, after the fake fight, I saw him first, I was walking past the copy room with a stack of files I didn't even need, just to look busy. Kane was standing by the window at the end of the hall, coffee cup in one hand, staring out like he was watching for something. His eyes were different, narrow, restless, flicking left and right. When he saw me, he forced that old smile, asked if I was okay after this morning. I nodded, kept my head down, and walked away fast. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he'd hear it. We knew he wouldn't wait long. That night, the building was almost empty. I stayed late on purpose, left my office door cracked, laptop open like I just stepped out for tea. I put a folder right on the desktop called Kane, Final Evidence, Do Not Delete. Inside were copies of everything, the shell companies, the penthouse receipts, grid shade logs, photos of him and Vesper. All fake copies, of course. The real files were safe on the blockchain. But to him, they looked real enough to kill for. I watched on Celine's security feed from her study. Midnight came and went. Then 112 a.m. The hallway camera caught him. Kane, hoodie up, moving quiet, slipping into my office like a thief. He sat at my desk, fingers flying over the keys. He used Marcus Hale's old account, exactly like we knew he would. I watched him open the folder, watched his face go tight when he saw what was inside. He started deleting, fast, frantic. Drag, delete, empty trash. Then he opened a program to overwrite the drive, running it 3 times, like that would erase the truth forever. When the laptop still showed traces, he lost it completely. He yanked the hard drive cable, slammed the machine against the desk until the screen cracked, pieces scattered on the floor. He even took a letter opener and scratched across the platter like a man trying to murder a memory. He sat back, breathing hard, smiling that sick little smile. He thought he'd wiped the past clean. The next morning, I walked into the office at exactly 8:15, same as always, carrying the same travel mug, wearing the same tired face everyone expected after being fired. My steps slowed the second I saw my door cracked open. I pushed it all the way and stopped dead. The laptop was on its side, screen spiderwebbed, pieces of plastic scattered across the desk like someone had taken a hammer to it. Papers were everywhere. The chair was kicked over. It looked like a storm had torn through that one room. I set my bag down slow, heart already racing, even though I knew this was coming. I right-clicked the power button. Nothing. Flipped it over. The hard drive bay was empty, wires hanging loose. Someone had ripped the drive out and smashed it against the desk edge until it was just twisted metal. I opened the call to Astra on speaker, made sure my voice cracked right away. Astra, it's all gone. I let the tears come. Real ones this time, because even though I knew the real evidence was safe, those nights of no sleep, the shaking hands, the fear, that was all real. Years of work. Someone came in here and destroyed everything. The laptop, the drive, the backups on the desktop. There's nothing left. I sank into the broken chair and let my head drop into my hands so anyone passing by would see. A couple people did stop, whispered, asked if I was okay. I just shook my head and cried harder. Word spread fast. Poor Leora. Lost everything. Probably some angry vendor or random break-in. No one looked at Kane. Not yet. Inside, though, I was counting hours until the gala, because every tear I let fall that morning was another brick in the wall we were about to drop on him. But inside, I was ice, because while Kane was busy smashing my computer, Celine's security team was collecting every second, every keystroke logged, every file deletion time-stamped, every camera angle, hallway, office, even the reflection in the window showing his face clear as day, IP address, login credentials, The exact minutes he thought he was saving himself, he was writing his own arrest warrant. By noon, Celine's head of security walked into her office, carrying a thick black folder and a USB drive. I was already there, hands wrapped around a cup I hadn't touched. He laid it all out like evidence in a courtroom. Screenshots of Marcus Hale's account logging in at 1:12 a.m. Kane's face clear on 3 different cameras. The exact seconds he opened my folders. The deletion commands. The moment he ripped the hard drive out and smashed it against the desk until metal bent. Every keystroke, every breath, every smug little smile when he thought he was free. Felony computer tampering. Unauthorized system access. Destruction of company property. Intent to obstruct an investigation. 4 new charges, ironclad, time-stamped, filmed in high definition. Celine closed the folder without a word and slid it into the gala briefcase, the one that would sit beside her on the stage tomorrow night. The rest of that week, I played the part perfectly. I came in every morning with red eyes and yesterday's clothes. I spoke soft, kept my head down, let people bring me tea and pat my shoulder. I'm so sorry, Leora. Who would do something like this? Take all the time you need? I thanked them, voice cracking just enough, and went back to my wrecked office to sit among the broken pieces like a woman who had nothing left. Kane came by on Thursday. He knocked once, stepped in, closed the door behind him, like he still belonged anywhere near me. Same cologne, same fake concern face he used when the church ladies asked why I looked tired. He put his hand on my shoulder, warm, heavy, possessive, and squeezed just hard enough to remind me who used to own me. I heard what happened, he said, voice dripping sympathy. I'm so sorry, Leora. Some people just can't handle the truth getting out, can they? His fingers pressed a second longer, like he was tasting his victory. I stared at the floor so he wouldn't see my eyes. My skin crawled. My stomach turned so hard, I tasted bile. I wanted to scream, to claw, to shove him through the broken window and watch him fall 34 floors. Instead, I nodded, small and beaten, and whispered, "Thank you for checking on me." He walked out smiling. I waited until his footsteps faded, then went to the ladies' room and threw up everything I hadn't eaten in 3 days. One more day of pretending to be broken. Then the lights go up, the screen comes on, and the man who thought he buried me learns what it feels like to be the one under the dirt. The night before the gala, I stood in front of the mirror in the dress Celine picked. Simple black, nothing flashy. I looked at the woman staring back and barely recognized her. Bruises on my arm had faded. Eyes were steady now. Tomorrow, I told my reflection, either he collapses completely, or we all go off the cliff together. The glass tower glowed like a jewel against the dark Denver sky. Every floor lit up, every window shining. Inside, it was all crystal chandeliers, gold-rimmed plates, champagne flutes catching the light like stars. Cameras flashed the second we stepped out of the elevator. Reporters, shareholders, old money, new money, everyone dressed like royalty. I walked in on Celine's arm, the simple black dress she picked for me brushing my knees. Nothing flashy, nothing that would make him look away. My legs shook so hard the whole ride to the 100th floor I had to hold the rail to stay upright. Celine squeezed my hand once, steady as always, and whispered, "Breathe, child." Tonight, he learns who really buried who. Kane was already there, standing near the bar in his perfect midnight blue tux, cufflinks glinting, laughing loud with 2 board members like he owned the room, like he owned the whole city. When he spotted me across the crowd, his smile didn't even flicker. He lifted his glass a tiny bit, that same charming tilt of the head he used at church potlucks, To everyone else, it looked polite. To me, it said, "I destroyed your proof. Darling, you're nothing." I smiled back, small and sweet, and felt the ice settle in my stomach. Dinner dragged on forever, course after course. Speeches about legacy and vision, applause that never seemed to end. I sat between Celine and Astra, picking at salmon I couldn't taste, heart pounding so loud in my ears I barely heard the words. Every laugh from Kane's table felt like a slap. Every time he leaned in to whisper to someone important, I saw the man who threw me into the snow acting like the hero of the night. Then the lights dimmed for the final part, the part they called honoring integrity in our second century. The room went quiet. Celine stood, elegant in midnight silk, and thanked everyone for 100 years of trust built on honesty and family values. Cameras turned to her. Phones lifted. She paused, let the silence stretch, then said, calm and clear, "Tonight, I want to introduce someone who has protected that trust when no one else could. Someone who refused to let darkness win." She turned and handed me the microphone. Every eye in the room followed it into my shaking hand. And that's when Kane finally realized the grave wasn't mine. She turned and handed me the microphone. The room went dead quiet. 500 faces turned toward me at once, some curious, some already whispering. Kane's frozen, like he'd seen a ghost. I walked to the center of the stage. My knees wanted to fold, but I locked them and looked straight across the tables until my eyes found his. I held his stare for the first time in months, without looking away. "Most of you know me as Kane's wife," I said, voice steady even though my hands shook around the mic. "Tonight, I'm here as the person who found the truth." The giant LED wall behind me lit up bright. First slide, the chart I built night after night on my bedroom wall. 9 shell companies, red arrows, $40 million stolen and washed clean. A woman at table 3 gasped loud enough for the mic to catch it. I didn't look away from Kane. His jaw tightened. Next slide, photos of Vesper on the penthouse terrace, champagne flute raised to the camera, Vesper swiping the black Amex at the jewelry counter, Vesper wearing the diamond bracelet he bought the same week he told me we couldn't afford a new water heater. Kane's champagne glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Then grid shade, screenshots of the AI twisting real numbers, making honest projects look sick, funneling every lost contract to the same quiet competitor. He shot to his feet so hard his chair crashed backward. "This is slander," he roared, voice cracking like glass. "She's lying. She's a bitter, crazy woman who can't let go. Turn that screen off right now." His face was purple, veins standing out on his neck. He took 2 steps toward the stage, pointing at me with a shaking finger. "Everyone here knows what she is. 23 years of nagging, controlling, spying. She's been obsessed with my work for months. This is revenge because I finally had enough of her." A few people shifted uncomfortably. One board member half stood like he might actually listen. My stomach dropped. For one terrifying second, it felt like he might turn the room. I didn't flinch. I turned the microphone straight at him, calm as ice. Celine rose from her seat at the head table, slow and deliberate, every eye following her. The room had already started to turn, but when she stood, the last whispers died. She didn't need the microphone. Her voice carried anyway. "I authorized every line of investigation you just saw," she said, calm and cold. "Every file, every camera feed, every dollar trail. My own security team watched it happen in real time. This is not a scorned wife story. This is Arkwright protecting itself from a thief who sat at my table." Astra stepped forward beside her mother, shoulders squared, eyes blazing. She held up her phone so the cameras could see the screen. "And this," she said, voice cutting through the silence, "is the original recording Kane doctored to blackmail me. Full context, full witnesses, full truth. He threatened to destroy my name if we touched him. Tonight he learns threats have an expiration date. The two of them stood there, mother and daughter, unbreakable." The room looked from them to Kane and back again. Whatever doubt he'd tried to plant withered in that moment. People weren't just believing me now. They were ashamed they'd ever listened to him. "Kane," I said, loud enough for every corner. "Which part is the lie? The 40 million that left Arkwright accounts and landed in 9 shell companies named after women you used to sleep with? The penthouse you paid for with company money while I froze on our porch? Or the security footage, right now on that screen, of you ripping apart my computer because you thought no one was watching?" His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came. His eyes darted to the doors, to the board, to the cameras, wild like a trapped animal who just realized the walls have no exits. He tried one last time, voice breaking. She forged everything. She's insane." I looked at him, really looked at the man I once loved, and felt nothing but pity. "Then explain the footage. Kane, explain your own face on camera at 117 a.m. Explain why every deleted file still exists on the blockchain you never knew about." I clicked to one more photo I'd saved for last. Kane and Vesper on the penthouse terrace at sunset, arms wrapped tight around each other, her head on his shoulder, both of them laughing like the world belonged to them. Then the next image, taken just 3 weeks ago from a different security camera, Vesper in the same silk robe, same terrace, same pose. Only the man holding her now was a silver-haired investor twice Kane's age, his hand lower on her back, her smile brighter than it ever was for Kane. The caption underneath, pulled straight from her private messages we'd recovered. "He's worth 8 figures and bored with his wife. Time to upgrade." A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. Women covered their mouths. Men looked away. Kane stared at the screen like someone had punched him in the soul. His knees actually buckled. He grabbed the table to stay upright. The man who thought he owned her had just been traded like a used car, and 500 people watched him realize it at the exact same second. He had nothing left. The room saw it. The air went out of him like a punctured balloon. He stood there, shaking, mouth working soundlessly, while 500 people stared at the man they thought they knew and saw only a thief. The room went colder than the night he threw me out. Last slide, security footage of him in my office, hoodie up, ripping the hard drive out, smashing it against the desk, smiling like a man who just killed the only witness. Then his fake video threatening Astra, side by side with the real recording, every cut and splice highlighted in red. He stared at the screen, mouth open, no sound coming out. I stepped to the edge of the stage and looked down at him. "You told me I belonged in the snow," I said, soft enough that the microphone still carried it to every corner. "Tonight, the cold is all yours." The room was so quiet, I could hear his breathing. Security poured in from every door, black suits, earpieces, moving like shadows. Kane saw them coming, and panic finally broke through his mask. He shoved the board member beside him, hard, sent the man stumbling. Chairs crashed over as he tried to bolt toward the side exit, screaming my name like it was poison. "Leora, you did this. You'll pay for this." People recoiled from him, actually stepped back, chairs scraping, women clutching their purses like he might grab them next. No one reached to help. No one even looked sorry. His perfect tux was twisted, tie hanging loose, face red and wet with sweat. The man who walked in, owning the room, was suddenly contagious. 2 guards caught him before he made it 5 steps. They twisted his arms behind his back with practiced calm. The handcuffs snapped shut, metal on metal, loud enough that every microphone in the room caught it and threw the sound across the hall like a gunshot. He twisted against them, wild now, hair falling in his eyes, spit flying as he screamed, "You think this is over? You think you've won? I'll ruin all of you, every single one." Just as the guards reached for his arms, Kane lunged straight toward the stage, eyes locked on me and Astra, pure murder in them. He shoved an elderly board member so hard the man fell into a table, glasses shattering everywhere. For one terrifying second, it looked like he would make it to us. Then 4 men from the nearest tables, 2 executives I barely knew and 2 investors who'd toasted him an hour earlier, moved at once. They caught him mid-stride, tackled him hard to the marble floor. His tux ripped at the shoulder, his face slammed against the ground, cheek bleeding where it scraped the edge of a fallen chair. The room heard the thud, heard the air leave his lungs in a grunt. The same men who once slapped his back and called him brother now pinned him down without hesitation, disgust on their faces. That was the final picture everyone saw. Kane, flat on his stomach, arms twisted behind him, surrounded by the people he thought he owned, while the guards snapped the cuffs on. His perfect image didn't just crack, it shattered into 1,000 pieces right there on the gala floor. No one moved toward him. The circle around him widened. Board members who shook his hand an hour ago stared at the floor. The investor who toasted him at dinner turned his back completely. He locked eyes with me one last time, chest heaving, face twisted with hate, and something broken underneath. "You win this round," he spat, half laugh, half dying animal. "But this is only the beginning." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just watched them drag the man who used to be my husband out of the room, shoes scraping, voice echoing down the marble corridor until the doors closed and cut him off forever. The lights came up slow. Cameras flashed like lightning. One person started clapping, then another. Then the whole room rose, sound swelling until the chandeliers shook. Celine's arm came around my shoulders, strong and steady. Astra stood on my other side, tears running free, gripping my hand so tight it hurt. I stood there in the middle of it all, chest finally unclenching, and took the first full breath I'd had since the night he threw me into the snow. The morning after the gala, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News alerts, messages, calls from numbers I hadn't seen in years. Kane's face was everywhere. Arkwright executive arrested in dramatic gala, takedown. Embezzlement, money laundering, computer tampering, blackmail. The list kept growing. Federal charges, state charges, civil suits from the shell companies he dragged into his mess. The house we lived in for 23 years got sealed with yellow tape the same week. Vesper vanished from the penthouse the night the story broke. The doorman said she left with 6 suitcases and a man in a Bentley. Astra walked into the emergency board meeting the next day with her head high. Every question about the fake video was answered with the real footage and a room full of witnesses. By lunchtime, the board issued a statement. Full exoneration, renewed confidence, promotion discussions already on the table. She called me that afternoon, laughing and crying at the same time. "I can breathe again," she said. "Thank you." Celine called me to the mansion library 2 days later. She poured tea the way she always did. Steady hands, quiet room. Then she slid a folder across the table. Inside was a new contract, New title, new office on the executive floor. Chief Integrity Officer, she said. You'll answer only to me and the board. Your job is to finish what you started. Clean every corner, build new walls, make sure no one ever steals from this company, or its people, again. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. Me, the woman who used to beg for grocery money, now guardian of a corporation worth billions. I signed without hesitation. A month later, I went back to the old house one last time. The police tape was gone, but the windows were dark. I stood on the porch, where I once froze, and looked at the door that slammed in my face. The paint splatters were still there under a thin layer of dust, white ghosts of that night. I put my hand on the wood and felt nothing. No pull, no ache, no wish to turn the key I no longer had. That house belonged to a woman who doesn't exist anymore. I walked away, without looking back. This story isn't just about a terrible husband. It's about the day you decide no one, not him, not anyone, gets to write the value of your life in their handwriting. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a woman who keeps collecting evidence while everyone thinks she's broken. If you've ever been thrown away, lied to, made to feel small, I want you to hear this. Your worth was never his to take, and the truth, when it finally stands up, is stronger than any door he can slam. So tell me in the comments. Loves, what injustice have you carried in silence? Share it here. You're not alone. Hit the bell. Subscribe if these stories help you breathe a little easier. Share with someone who needs to hear they're stronger than they know. Next week, I'll tell you about another family, another betrayal, another woman who refused to stay on the porch. Until then, remember, don't underestimate a woman who's gone quiet. Sometimes it just means she's busy gathering enough evidence. What would you do if one day you realized the person you trusted most was the one who threw you out into the street? See you soon. Loves. Stay strong.